Hey guys, welcome to Meals with Maria. I am so excited to share some amazing summer recipes with you today. I'm kind of hiding up in my bedroom because it's very loud downstairs with the kids today. But I just wanted to give a quick intro and just say these meals are so beautiful and so flavorful. You're gonna love them. I'm gonna post all of the recipes in the description box below because you are gonna want to make them. Enjoy. Is a rosemary roasted salmon with potatoes and asparagus, and I'm just calling it sheet pan balsamic salmon because that's basically what it is. So we're just going to start off by slicing up about a teaspoon of fresh rosemary. I'm sure you could use dried if you have it, but in this recipe, I really would recommend getting fresh if you can. It's super easy to grow herbs or buy herbs that you can actually grow in your kitchen. So think about doing that. I've always also had an arrow garden. So as always, I will post that down in my description box if you're interested in growing one of those yourself. So you just want to slice this up into a small mince basically, then transfer that to a small bowl or measuring cup like I'm doing. And here I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Again, you want to try and use a better olive oil in this case, but if you don't have it, go ahead and use a canola oil. And then 2 teaspoons of minced garlic. I had the pre-cut stuff, but I'm sure fresh would give you even more flavor. You can see how thick this sauce is. Like, it's so full of flavor and delicious just with the garlic and the rosemary. Then the recipe calls for 1 1/4 pounds of Yukon Gold potatoes. I kind of eyeballed this and said that 4 looked like a decent amount for us, and it was the perfect amount for 4 people for the meal, and it fit on the pan very well. So you just want to slice these up into, I would say, a medium dice. We want these to be kind of like almost like a home fry. That way they will cook perfectly on the sheet pan in the right amount of time. You don't want to cut them too small or else they'll cook too fast. And if you cut them too big, it would take too long and you would end up overcooking the rest. The important thing when you're cooking like a sheet pan meal is that everything cooks at the right speed and temperature so that you're not overcooking or undercooking something different. Once your potatoes are diced, you're going to want to add 1 tablespoon of the oil, rosemary, and garlic mixture. And then I'm going to mix that around, make sure that everything is fully covered, and add about a teaspoon of salt as well as pepper. I'll spread these out evenly on a large rimmed baking sheet, and you're going to bake these at 425 degrees for 20 minutes. While the potatoes are getting started, I'm going to start trimming the asparagus. I'm just going to cut the ends off of the asparagus because that's like a really crunchy part and you really don't want to eat that. I mean, I think some people do, but I'm not into it. So I just cut those off and set them aside. They're great for using for like a vegetable stock or even in like a juice or something, but not necessarily good for this dish. So I'm cutting the asparagus into thirds, and I'm actually going to place this into the same bowl that I used for the potatoes. That way I can save on dishes. And I'm going to add another tablespoon of the oil mixture to the asparagus and mix thoroughly to get fully covered. I'm also going to add some salt and pepper to this too. It says 1/4 teaspoon, but I think I just sprinkled on what I had. Now, what's a salmon dish without lemon? So I'm just slicing my lemon into rounds and getting that started as well. Now the recipe calls for about 20 ounces of salmon, which is probably about what I have. I think it asks for fillets, but this is how mine was cut and it worked out perfectly. So I'm just taking the rest of the oil mixture and spreading that over the top of the salmon. Oh, that is like so delicious together. The rosemary, garlic, oil. Really, I've been using that mixture on everything since I started making this recipe. I'm really into it. I've made the potatoes multiple times since, and I'm like, what's better than rosemary, garlic, and oil, really? And then I'm going to make a sauce that we're going to put over the salmon when we're partway cooked. So it calls for 2 tablespoons of balsamic glaze, which I have here. And that's, I think, Pastine brand. And then it adds 1 tablespoon of, it says grainy mustard, which I did not have. So I used some Dijon, and it ended up tasting delicious. You can see I took a little piece here, and my son Julian wanted to try it. And he thought, wow, that was delicious. He really, really liked it. So it was a great way to get him kind of encouraged to eat the meal. You can see everything is ready here. And once my potatoes come out after the 20-minute mark, we're going to put everything on the sheet pan and start roasting it up with those potatoes. It's kind of cool because you get to put the potatoes in the oven first. They get that first set of cooking, and then you get to add everything else. And that way everything cooks at the right temperature. You can see how the potatoes are cooking for the first half, and they're looking really, really good. So we're actually going to move these over to the side of the pan and then add only the asparagus to start. And I'm going to cook the asparagus for about 3 minutes in the oven, and that's just going to give it a nice green look and get it started. And then we're going to add our salmon after that. So it went in, the asparagus has now come out, and we're going to move everything off to the side even more, which is fine at this point because everything's gotten kind of a good cook, so it doesn't need to be spread out as much, even though it seems like there's kind of like piles. It worked out just fine. So you just want to put the salmon in the center of the pan, and then we're going to lay the lemon across all the vegetables and the salmon and cook that for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, I'm going to take the lemons kind of off the top of the salmon and then brush the salmon with 1 teaspoon of the balsamic and mustard glaze. Just putting this over. So we're going to cook this for another 5 minutes at this point until the vegetables are tender and the salmon is just cooked through. And here's the finished product. This was so amazing and delicious. The whole family raved about it, and I just love that it's really healthy too. It's such a nice summer meal. It feels so fresh and light, and we just absolutely loved it. It was great because the kids had salmon before and didn't like it, but this time, I think because of that balsamic glaze, I really got them to try it, and they ended up saying that it was quite good. So I felt like it was a huge win for our family. The next meal I made was a Mediterranean lunch bowl. These went so fast. They were so good for lunch, and I couldn't wait to have them. These meals are awesome because they require no cooking on the stove. I've just taken 2 full scallions and I'm going to cut up the whole thing. It's kind of up to you. I know a lot of people like to use just the greens and save the whites for when you are cooking on the stove. I don't mind. I think that the whole thing is delicious, so I decided to use the entire scallion in mine. So I'm going to put those into a bowl. We're going to end up putting kind of all the ingredients that are going to go on top of our quinoa in the bowl. In the meantime, while I am slicing these vegetables, I am cooking up about a cup of dry quinoa on the stove, and I'll put a quinoa recipe, or I think the quinoa recipe is in the recipe that I'll link below for you too. Just super simple with water and quinoa on the stove. So I have about a cup of diced or sliced grape tomatoes, and then 1 can of chickpeas or garbanzo beans, whatever you want to call them, and just mixing that together. And overall, that's basically our little salad. And then I'm going to pour on about 2 tablespoons of Greek dressing, however much you like. The recipe I have does have a dressing that you can make with these by yourself. Personally, I was just wanted to go quickly and I didn't feel like making the dressing, and I happen to have Greek dressing and it worked out really well. And something I really love about these bowls is that they are not only hummus, but you also add tzatziki sauce, which I think is just delicious. I could be saying that wrong, but I think that's how you say it. So adding the hummus and the tzatziki was just so amazing. And you can see that I'm going to put some quinoa on the bottom of these bowls, just fully cooked up. And then I'm going to end up adding the chickpea and tomato and onion mixture over the top. And the thing that makes these so good is that there's just so much flavor because there is dressing and hummus and tzatziki. And so they're not boring. I know that quinoa, personally, I don't know, not always my favorite. It sometimes feels like it just kind of sops everything up and I don't really get a lot of flavor, but in these I got a lot. So I was able to make 2 lunch bowls out of this, and then I also ate a bowl that I didn't put in a Tupperware container that same day for lunch. So they were just really good, and I highly recommend them, and you can see how quick it was to make them. It's such a great summer lunch idea. Next recipe I'm going to make is a grilled scallop with an avocado corn salad, and I also serve some couscous with that. So in order to make the corn salad, you're going to need 5 fresh ears of corn. Once I made it, personally, I think you probably could have just gone with canned corn too, and it would have been good. But it was fun to cook up the corn on the grill. So I'm just putting about a tablespoon of olive oil over the corn and putting some chili powder. So this is maybe like a teaspoon of chili powder, and I'm just rubbing this onto the corn here. And we're going to end up just putting this onto the grill for a few minutes on each side. You want to cook it for about 6 to 8 minutes total, and then after it comes off the grill, we're just going to let it cool off. Now, unfortunately, I missed a bit of footage here, but I did, in the meantime, make the dressing for the corn and avocado salad. And I'm just pouring in 2 tablespoons of cilantro to 2 tablespoons of sliced chives, and I think I actually used scallions because that's what I had, 2 tablespoons of chopped red onion, a 1/4 cup of olive oil, a 1/2 teaspoon of cumin, and a 1/2 teaspoon of coriander, as well as a 1/4 cup of lime juice. Now the recipe also calls for a 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. I didn't add those just because I have young kids and they are not down with the spicy, but you can absolutely add those and I'm sure it would be delicious. And then I am just slicing up 1 avocado at a medium dice. You can see this avocado was perfect. It was absolutely delicious in the salad. And here you can see the corn coming off of the grill. It looks really good, and we're gonna let that cool while I slice up the avocado. Now, you know, is this the safest way to cut an avocado? Maybe not. My husband always says, you're gonna get avocado hand. And I'm like, it's fine. Like, I have knife control. It'll be okay. But if you have better ways, feel free to comment below and let me know your special avocado slicing method so that maybe I don't slice my hand one of these days. And so I'm just gonna add the avocado into the dressing here. And our next step is gonna be to add the corn. Now before I add the corn, I'm just going to let it cool a little bit more. I am going to get my scallops ready. So I have about a pound of scallops here. Now you can see that some are orange and some are white. Now, can you guess why this is? I've never seen ones like this before. I had to look it up. I had to Google it. And I found out that It's because some of them are female and some of them are male. And there is some sort of agreement that maybe I think it's the orange ones, like the female ones, taste a little bit sweeter or fattier. I'm not sure. But either way, I grilled them up and I couldn't really tell the difference. And so I grilled those for about 2 minutes on each side. They had some oil and salt and pepper on them, and they cooked up perfectly. And here is the avocado and corn salad. Unfortunately, I didn't get footage of me cutting the corn off the cob, but believe me, it wasn't really pretty anyway. I served this with some garlic couscous. I just followed the instructions on the package. It was super easy, and it was a huge hit. For the boys, I actually just left a piece of corn intact and cut it in half because they like it on the cob. The next meal is a Weight Watchers barbecue chicken salad, which just looked so delicious in the picture. I was like, I have to try this. And it's super interesting because you end up making your own barbecue sauce for this. And as you can see, this is such a colorful salad. Like, how could you not want to eat it? So to get this recipe started, I'm going to start by making the barbecue sauce, and we're going to use a half a cup of just canned tomato sauce. I happen to have Goya. Then 1 tablespoon of honey mustard, 1 tablespoon of barbecue seasoning mix, 2 teaspoons of brown sugar. Then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of onion powder and a half a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. Now the recipe calls for a pound of chicken breast, but I probably have closer to 2 pounds, and the chicken breasts I have are really thick, so I decided to cut them in half and trim off any excess fat. That's going to give the perfect amount of chicken for my family of 4 to each have 1 slice of chicken. Actually, the kids are going to have, they just split 1, they don't eat too much, and then we'll have an extra 1 left over, or if Dan wants to have some extra on his. So I'm just going to add some salt and pepper, and then I'm going to add these to a high heat grill. Personally, mine has a temperature knob on it, so it goes up to 500 degrees, and I'm going to cook them at 500 degrees for about 2 minutes on each side, and then we'll put some of the barbecue sauce on. In the meantime, I'm going to get the salad started by cutting up some of the romaine lettuce. You can either cut this with a knife like I'm doing. It doesn't bother me at all, but I know that some people tend to believe that it gets bitter if you don't tear it, so tear it up if you want. It's really all up to you how you want to do it. I personally like a really lettucey salad, so I'm using quite a bit of lettuce, but I know some people like a little bit less, so all up to you how you do this. That's the awesome thing about salads. You can kind of make them your own and, you know, somewhat follow the recipe, but just put like the same ingredients in and as much as you like of each, and there you have it. So here is my chicken after 2 minutes on each side, and I'm just going to put some of that barbecue sauce over each side and baste it up, and within a couple more minutes this should be cooked up. You just want to make sure that your chicken is definitely cooked all the way through, not one of those things that you want to have a little pink in the middle or anything like that. But this cooked up so fast and so easy just because they were thin slices of chicken breast. And I find that when you're not cooking those big ones, they come out so much juicier too. Like if you cook one of those big chicken breasts, it just takes forever and they get so dry. So I pretty much always slice mine in half, and I find that it's much better that way. So for the toppings on the salad, you just need 2 cups of diced grape tomatoes, as well as 1 red pepper diced up, as well as a 1/4 cup of sliced scallions. So in addition to my tomatoes, peppers, and scallions, I've also rinsed off some black beans in a can and opened a can of corn and drained that. We also have some semi-soft goat cheese, and we'll be covering the salad with some light ranch dressing. And actually, I think I probably just used full fat ranch dressing because that's what we had. But here you can see that I put all my diced vegetables on. Now I'm putting on some corn, some black beans. Go ahead and make this what you want. If you're more of a bean lover, add more beans. If you want more corn, add more corn. However you want to do it, that's the amazing thing about salads. You can make it your own. And here I'm just gonna crumble up some of that goat cheese. I just have like a log of it. You can definitely buy crumbled goat cheese too. I think for some reason I did not have the ability to get that this time. And I'm just putting it over the top, and yep, fingers are getting messy. That's just how I'm doing it. It's what we're doing, and it turned out just fine. The next meal is a grilled bruschetta chicken, and look how amazing this turned out. I feel like I've been wanting to make something like this for years, and I finally got around to it. So I just have 3 large tomatoes, and I'm dicing them up. Now you may want to remove some of the centers to make the bruschetta less, I don't know, like watery, but I really don't mind that. I just love a whole tomato. I think that the flavor is in the whole thing. So I'm slicing up my entire tomato and dicing it small to make an amazing bruschetta mixture. Now that my tomatoes are chopped, I'm going to add about a teaspoon of sliced basil, but honestly, you can add more than that. Like, go to town, add as much basil as you like. The basil's really, really good. Personally, you know, go to town, whatever you want to do. And then I'm just going to top this with a sprinkle of salt and pepper. 2 teaspoons of minced garlic, similar to the basil. Do whatever you want on this. Add as much as you like. If you're a garlic lover, there's really not going to be too much in here. Especially if you have fresh garlic, it's going to taste even better. I do have like the minced stuff that I just had in my fridge, but if you're cutting up a fresh piece of garlic, you're going to be in good shape. Now, I'm doing the same thing that I did with the Weight Watchers chicken salad. I have cut 2 chicken breasts in half, and I'm sprinkling with olive oil, salt, and pepper, as well as some Italian seasoning, about a teaspoon of Italian seasoning on these. And then I'm just gonna grill these up, again, about 2 minutes on each side on high. And then I'm gonna put some fresh mozzarella right over the top. I think it recommended like 1 slice per each, but I was like, we're gonna do 2 because can't go wrong with that. And as I said earlier, I made the potatoes again because I was like, that's going to go so good with my bruschetta chicken. Might as well serve the potatoes again from the original salmon recipe that we did at the beginning of the video. And then you can see after a few minutes, once our mozzarella has melted, the chicken has come off, and I'm just going to cover this with the bruschetta mixture. And after the chicken is covered with the bruschetta, I'm using that balsamic glaze, the same one that I used for the salmon, the Pastine brand, but I think they have like all different brands. You know, I know I've seen even like store-bought store brands of that these days. You can get it pretty much anywhere. And just covering this chicken up, drizzling it with the glaze, and sprinkling it with Parmesan cheese, and you'll see that this is like the most beautiful thing you have ever seen. I'm in love with this dish, and I can't wait to make it again for the family. Yeah, overall, all of these meals were just so fantastic, and everybody just enjoyed them. And my husband was like, wow, you're really killing it with the meals this week. And I was like, yes, I picked like specific summer ones and just ones that looked so pretty. I mean, look at that. How can you not want to eat that for dinner? And it was just so good with our potatoes. So I just want to thank you guys so much for watching today. If you can please like this video and subscribe if you've not already. I make videos like this. I do extreme grocery budget challenges. I'll post another summer type meal video up for you, some delicious stuff as well at the end here. And I just want to say thank you, and I'll see you guys all very soon. I've been waiting